Open Forum every Saturday out here on 106.1 FM, humfmradio.com, along with Jagat, Kamdar. Our co-host Dinkar Chera is missing. He's out on a sabbatical. He should be back next Saturday. My name is Subodh. It's a pleasure talking to all of y'all every Saturday from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
Time here, and we were talking about... hello?
Hey, how are you doing?
Shail Kumar.
Hey, Shail, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Hey,
Thank
this
you.
is Jagat.
This
This is Jagat, and Subodh is managing the board right now, so he'll be talking to you also.
Great.
But listen,
nice to meet you, Subodh.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Thanks for calling in here today.
I do not know what part of America you are in, because you are like a traveling salesperson right now. That's not the right word to use, but
so just to give you a little gist of Kumar, right? Your last name is Kumar, you said?
Correct.
Yeah. And your first name is
Shailendra, but Shail.
Shail. Okay, Shail. Just to give you a little gist, you're calling into quite a popular, I want to say because we run this show, quite a popular talk show out here in Houston called Open Forum. We've been here for the last 19 years now. It is actually, we take pride in announcing that this is the longest running Desi talk show in the entire United States of America.
Right.
And I will keep saying it till someone proves me wrong.
Right.
So far, no one has been able to do that, because the fact of the matter is we are the longest running Desi talk show. Look at all those.
Pure talk show.
Yeah, and Desi.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh हमसे पहले है, but there are other people who have tried, but they've not succeeded for more than 2-3 years. But this is the longest running Desi talk show, and the reason is our listeners are the the force who drive us into what we do every Saturday, because they are fantastically intelligent. They are listeners. They don't want to call too many times, but when they call, boy, we are on our feet trying to answer them. So whatever we talk today, thousands and thousands of people all over the world are listening, most of them concentrated in Houston. So, Shail, tell us about what exactly are you going to be talking about today? Because we know a little bit about it, but it was very intriguing when Jagat talked to me about it. I said, you know what, we really want to give him about 45 minutes and talk about all this. Open that topic.
Actually, to start with, who is Shail Kumar?
Yeah, what do you do?
Instead of me talking about it and us talking about it, I think you would be a better person to talk about yourself, exactly who you are, so that people would know.
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks Subodh and Jagat for inviting me to Open Forum. It's truly a pleasure to be on your longest running talk show, US Desi talk show. I'm really excited. I'll use that punchline every time I talk about Open Forum now.
There you go.
So, I would love to talk about the mission, which is to transform India's higher education system, but you asked me to talk about me as an introduction.
Exactly. And then we'll segue into the education part of it.
Yes. No. So I grew up in India, and, I'm really proud of my grandfather. He was a very honest and hardworking man. But when I was 6, he died suddenly due to heart failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I gathered from the soft whispers of my parents and my family and the stunned silence that followed that he died a very poor man.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in this background, Subodh and Jagat, it was very clear to me in a middle-class family that education was the only way to move forward in life.
Right.
And as a kid, that meant I became a nerd very quickly.
Okay,
I studied really hard, did really well in school, and I was blessed and fortunate and excited to join the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, to pursue my undergraduate studies.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at... and of course, I worked for a few years in India. I got my MBA at Indiana University, Bloomington. I worked in Fortune 500 companies. I did a couple of startups.
Mm-hmm.
But that desire and the passion for education has been with me since my early days. And, that has found an expression in my volunteer work that I've been doing since 1991. I was a very active volunteer in the IIT Kharagpur Alumni Network.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up becoming the president of IIT Foundation. And in my desire to improve India's higher education system, I ended up co-founding the Pan IIT alumni movement as well. And then in 2006, when I was thinking about next 30 years of where I want to commit my time, energy, and resources, I realized higher education in India were two passions that really drove me. So I actually quit my role as a senior director of corporate strategic planning at Lam Research, which is a semiconductor equipment manufacturing company of another Fortune 500 company based out of Silicon Valley. And I joined UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. I was in administration for 5 years. And for 1 year, I was at UC San Diego. And at Berkeley, Subodh and Jagat, I was really fortunate to work with some of the most inspiring group of people. These were deans of various colleges, faculty members across the campus. And I was just inspired working with them by their commitment to student learning outcomes, conducting research, and making an impact in the society and nation. And it sort of made me question, how come India, where I grew up, we deeply value education, and how come we don't have an institute like a Berkeley or a Stanford or MIT even up to 70 years? So sort of that journey took me to sort of writing the book that I wrote, which was on India and its higher education system. It's called Building Golden India. How to unleash India's vast potential and transform its higher education system now. And then I started a nonprofit called Nalanda 2.0. I'm happy to talk more about it.
So, Shailendra, I just want to stop you right there. Berkeley, of course, is it's a great institute, and so is Baylor, so is, there's so many out here. Absolutely right. But India, we cannot say that we don't have great institutions. We do have great institutions, but again, I don't know if it's fair to compare Berkeley with an institution like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIMS, or is it fair to compare some other highly ranked engineering colleges in USA to IIT, for example, or Pilani, for example? But there are good institutions in India.
Pilani has become part of IIT.
I'm saying, BITS and all these, these are fantastic. Look at, I graduated from GS Medical, and I'm very proud to say it's number 5 in the country, and it ranks very high in the world. So we have, but I don't know we have enough of those. We have very, very few compared relative to the population that we see in USA and relative to the population that we see in India. I would say we have, but we have extremely few in number, and maybe we don't have enough resources for the research that it's much more ordinarily available in the United States. So would you disagree with that, or do you have a different take on that?
Subodh, that's a great question. I think, when I think about India's higher education, I'm looking at the entire system as such, right? So I'm not picking on any particular institution or particular faculty, etc. So if you look at it, and you made a very good point about population as a sort of per capita, do we have enough? And so, for instance, by the way, higher education is all post-secondary education, just sort of we are all on the same page in terms of definition, which includes vocational training and community colleges, etc. So it's a very large part of what a society and nation has. And my point is actually beyond just picking on one institution versus the other. It's saying our higher education system is in crisis for the following reason, which is, if you look at top institutions like IITs or IIMs or AIMS and a few others that you have, if you take the total capacity of intake, it's like 0.2% of the total student enrolled in India's colleges and universities. And if you take another metric, which is rather stark, which is 75 to 90% of those graduating from colleges in India are considered unemployable by the industry. So it sort of raises sort of very serious questions about the quality of institutions they do have. And I think that's where I'm coming from in my sort of the urgency that I feel in sort of addressing this sort of the scale and the scope of the challenge and opportunity that India faces.
And
that's really where I'm coming from.
But also, listen, Shailendra, the point is, as you know, India became independent only about 70 years back. America has been a country on its own since 1780. And if you look at the history of Harvard and Princeton, which are more than 200-year-old institutions, I mean, given a time frame that India has developed so much within such a short period of time, I mean, if you remember the IITs were started in 1957, Kharagpur being the very first one in India for that matter, which is only after about 8-9 years after independence, that was the foresight of the government at the time. And right now there are a lot of institutions. If you really look at the percentage number, even in this country, 70% of students, they do not graduate from colleges. Even though America has the best resources available and the educational system available. Compared to that, in India right now, yes, there are a lot of challenges, but I don't think that we need to discount the fact that there is a tremendous system that which has been developed. Of course, is based on English, a way of educating our kids. So, would you agree to that?
Yeah. Before you answer, Shail, I want to just echo and say exactly what you're saying. We're looking at a graph out here where we're looking at the independence of India, the time, and how these institutions have actually started helping us. And when you compare that with the 200 years, I wonder if we are on the right path, or I wonder if what Mr. Kumar is saying is that, hey, we are on the graph, but we are way behind where we should be. Sir, hold that thought, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another caller because he may have a question to you. Don't hang up, okay, Shailendra? Hold your line. Thank you. Hold your line.
If we get cut off, please give us a call.
Oh, okay, hold on. The other guy cut off because we probably waited for too long, too. Folks, if you do want to chime in and discuss this, please call us at 1-800-444-1061. 1-800-444-1061. I will try to get as many people who want to talk to Shail online. If not, we're going to challenge Shailendra Kumar and find out exactly what he wants to do.
Correct.
So, could you tell us, Shail, that are we thinking correctly or are we wrong, Jagat and I? We are saying that, hey, there is a curve out there, and somewhere on the curve we are still not reaching a point where we can say, hey, you know what, now we are doing fantastic. We are probably just on that curve right now.
Yeah, no, I think those are all great points both of you have made. In fact, IITs, when they were established, in fact, I went to IIT Kharagpur, which was the first IIT to be established in 1951. So it's actually very shortly after independence.
Right.
So IITs, IIMs, AIMS, all of these actually did raise the bar for India, no question about it. In the context of how poor India was at the time of independence, I think we did some phenomenal investments in the future of India's higher education system, and I am a beneficiary of that. So I applaud, and I'm very happy that India did and made those investments. Well, that was, if you think about it, those innovations that or investments we need are fairly dated now, 50s, 60s, and of course now recently we have increased number of IITs and IIMs, and even AIMS we are increasing. So on that count, you're absolutely right. They did raise the bar, and that's really, really helpful. But I'm now looking from a perspective of India as a nation that has a proud nation with a very deep, rich history. In fact, as a reference, ancient India had Nalanda University and many such universities that were centers of higher learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a deep history of having done really well in the topic we are talking about. But if you think about the ambition and, of course, the demographics, we are 1.3 billion people.
Correct.
There are 25 million people born each year. We are looking at a very different scale of a challenge that we must address. These young men and women, girls and boys will want to go through the education system, primary, secondary. They will want to have fulfilling lives and careers, and the bridge that takes them from a childhood to adulthood and from just a student to working professional. It's really the higher education system. And right now it is completely shackled. There's such a severe shortage of excellent higher education institutions that what has happened is, parents are speaking with their wallet and feet. So we're investing, and parents are investing $40 billion a year in private coaching to improve their students' chances to get into better colleges and universities.
Very good point.
Yeah, that's a really big number.
Huge.
And those who can afford about $10 billion a year or more actually is being spent by parents who are sending their kids overseas for higher education because they feel that's a better option. So $50 billion a year we are spending per year just because there is such a severe shortage of excellent options within India. Now, one point I want to sort of go back to, which both of you addressed, India just got its independence in 1947. Where are we on the curve, right?
Right.
Actually, in my book as well as in the presentation I made recently when I was in Houston, and a lot of things that I have written and it's on my website, etc. If you look at comparable countries in terms of, and South Korea and China are interesting benchmarks for the time frame we are talking about. China got its independence in 1949. South Korea got its independence in 1950, early 1950s. Actually, South Korea was one of the poorer nations. It's actually poorer than India.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and China was also, devastated by all the imperial stuff that happened prior to its independence. And they have remarkable investments in higher education. Just to give you two numbers, in 2017 there was a ranking done of top 500 universities around the world. The U.S. leads the metric with 135 universities in that ranking. China has 45 in the top 500.
Wow.
South Korea, as I mentioned, which got its independence after India, has 12. Singapore, which is a very small nation compared to in our size, has 2, and India has 1. So in that sense, India is punching well below its potential because intellectual horsepower we have. In fact, the Chancellor of UC San Diego is an IITian. The President of NTU is an IITian. Not just to pick on IITian, there are deans and faculty members across the world who are from Indian origin who are doing extremely well, but yet in India we are shooting under our potential. So that's, I think, we have the potential, but we are definitely behind the curve now.
Yeah.
Now that we are a much stronger nation, a stronger economy, we have very high ambitions of becoming one of the superpowers. So higher education is lagging far behind in terms of that ambition, in terms of our potential, and that's the point that I want. I'm happy to talk about.
So, Shail, the thing about higher education is also you have to actually go through primary education to even reach to a potential of higher education, and therein also lies the problem in India. We do have child labor as one of the biggest hurdles, and poverty as the second biggest hurdle. Maybe 1 and 2 could be interchanged. And the rurality of India, most of India is still quite rural. Just recently, electricity reached almost all villages in India, recently, like a week ago. So there are challenges that we have to face. And I think reaching that level of higher education, as you mentioned, we still have to do a primary and secondary education coming to that level.
Yeah, but
and in fact, we're going to be talking to Pratham at 5:15 p.m. today because they have taken up on the challenge of having a parallel educational, model where the government is put on one side, but they do their own, and trying to bring these kids out of that level where they can actually get into the real schools and then get to the level that you're talking about, higher education. But I do appreciate the fact you talked about South Korea and China. China being a communist country has a totally different agenda. India being a democratic country will have some challenges. You can say the same in sports. How far are we behind in sports as opposed to China? Extremely far behind because the focus changes as you have a democracy versus communism.
I think China is really not a good example because of the communism. And honestly, yes, China became independent in 1949. But till 1966, there was nothing, basically, when the revolution came in and Mao Zedong drove everybody to the villages for farming purposes. So the China that really we know it today is because of Deng Xiaoping, that who became the real leader of China. But putting aside China, South Korea was always a democratic country from its inception. Yes, there were political problems and everything. And South Korea was also one of the very poorest countries at the time, 1949 when it became independent. Looking the same time period what India has and what the South Korea has, I think we need to look at the South Korean model much more than China model. And South Korea has a lot of universities at this time which are in the much higher ranking than the Indian universities. So that is where something is going wrong in India, for that matter. And that is what we want to talk about. So what are the problems that or the challenges that we face in India, and what are the solutions? And that is what
we're going to talk about. So having laid a foundation out here that obviously there is a problem.
Yes.
And the problem is of accessibility, or is it of number? It's not intelligence, as we know that.
Correct.
The intelligent power is there. So it's sheer numbers, sheer amount of money that can be spent either privately or public funds. So here you are, sir. Tell us about, first of all, before you get into the nitty-gritties of what is it that you propose to do to change this, tell us about your book. You wrote a book also. Tell us about your book.
Oh, hold on, Sash. Just a moment. Subodh, you remember yesterday we attended one gala.
Yes, we did.
And one student who was not doing nothing was selling tea, right? Simply because he needed to support his family. And somehow the cry was able to convince them to go back to school. And he was such a smart kid. It turned out to be such a smart kid that he won the award at the highest level in science. So these are the kind of
intelligence
that the India has. How do you tap that?
How do you tap that?
Right.
Good question. So we're going to throw it back to you, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, no, you can call me Shail Kumar.
Okay. We like to be very polite on open forum, sir. Thank you, bud. You see, it's the southern way of living out here in Texas. Everyone is a sir or a madam. So, but we will call you Shailendra, definitely. Shail, we'll call you Shail. So, Shail,
or Shailendra, either one.
Okay. So, tell us, Shail. Now, take it from where we've laid this foundation here. Tell us about your book. What have you written in that book? And what is the proposal that you have, how we can transform India's higher education system?
Yeah. So one point I want to sort of come back to, which you made in the previous question, which was in order to get to higher education, kids actually have to go through primary and secondary school education. So shouldn't we be fixing that first? And Pratham is actually doing great work on that. And I want to actually talk about that, which is a really important point. And I get this question every time we have this discussion. It's very important to share the perspective that I want to share, which is you're absolutely right. In order for anybody to come to higher education, they have to get up. In fact, let's start from early education, before even they go to formal education, primary, secondary. The entire ecosystem of education is really, really critical for the youth, for the society and the nation. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. The reason I have focused in my book on higher education, because I believe higher education system, and that's one of the key points I make in my book, Subodh and Jagat, that higher education is like the nerve center or nervous system of any society and nation. It affects every aspect of the nation. So for instance, the teachers who teach in K through 12 get their credentials, the BA degree or teaching pedagogical skills or their content expertise in colleges and universities. Professionals in every sector of the industry have to go through the higher education system, including officials in government services, etc. A vibrant system, so that is just about preparing youth for life and career. And if you look at India's demographics, right, so 1.3 billion people, 50% below the age of 25, or close to 500 million below 18, it's a really big number. So preparing 21st century full stop, even if I don't mention anything else.
Right.
Because that's a big number. And if you add to the fact that the global forces that are already upon us, and I was at a Thai conference earlier today and yesterday, the whole conference was all about artificial intelligence and other forces that are disrupting the world or going to disrupt the future of the world, future of industries, etc. In that sort of globally competitive environment, this more than ever before education is going to be key. And having more than just 12th class skills would be critical. So higher education becomes even more important in the global environment we are in right now, or going to be even more so going forward. The third thing you mentioned, I think, Subodh, you were mentioning that India has deep problems, poverty, for instance, huge problem. And in fact, there are like several such challenges that affect over 100 million people each. I call them India's mega challenges. You talk about poverty, there is law and order, there is urban migration, climate change, there's food, energy, water. You go down the laundry list of these issues. These are significant issues India is facing, and you kind of wonder where should we start first. And if you look at a vibrant higher education system, I'm thinking of all the universities you mentioned and I mentioned,
right?
This is where actually the research is happening, innovation is happening, startups are being created to solve problems that matter to the society.
Right.
So if you look at a vibrant higher education system like we have in the U.S. and other parts of the world, they're actually involved not just in preparing and educating professionals in all sectors of the society, but they're also solving problems that matter and spurring the research, innovation, startup ecosystem. Just as an example, Stanford, which is right in my neighborhood, the faculty, alumni, and students started companies, generated $2.7 trillion in revenues in 2015 alone. Imagine the economic impact of just one university that is making.
Wow.
So imagine, it has a multiplier effect. If we can transform India's higher education system, it has a multiplier effect on its youth, on the economy, on the kind of challenges we are facing that are not getting addressed and actually getting worse. So, for instance, the water tables in India are dropping to precipitous levels.
Correct.
In fact, Asid Biswas, one of the leading experts in water, said if we don't change our practices, we will face a water crisis like we have never seen before in the history of the world by 2030, which is not that far.
Well, people, to be honest with you, the Indian population did not really realize there was a time that, if you go 10 feet below the surface, then you will get water. And now you are going 1,000 feet sometimes, And
exactly.
And that is really not a good way of it. People still do not understand what kind of crisis that they are going to face in the future.
Yeah. Correct. And so now I'll get back to my books about. I make 3 big points. But the one big point I make in the book is the one I just talked about, which is higher education is the nervous system of any society and nation, and why it is so. I give evidence, some of the evidence that I've shared with you. The second point I make is that India's higher education system, in fact, is in crisis. Now, of course, we are very proud of people like Sundar Pichai, who's head of the CEO of Google, and Satya Nadella, who's head of Microsoft. And it's really a matter of pride to have our people who are born and brought up in India to be leading Fortune 500 companies and, disrupt. But these are exceptional people. Of course, we are very proud of it. But again, we're looking at the scale of the challenge we are facing. India needs to reimagine its higher education system so everybody else can benefit. It's not just those who go to the best institutions in the country, IITs or IIMs or others that you talked about, Pilani, etc. But can we make excellent higher education accessible, affordable, available to the majority or all of the people? That's really the key. That's the challenge. That's how can we do that?
Right.
So, the second part of the book, I've actually looked at what can we learn from Nalanda University of Ancient India. I mean, there are lessons from that time that are still applicable today. What can we learn from U.S. or University of California, Berkeley, Stanford, UC San Diego, National University of Singapore, China model, Korea model? What can we learn from others that can be applied in current day India? So the third part of my book really talks about a comprehensive roadmap that can transform India's higher education with the ambition that it is excellent education is available to 100% of its population. I mean, that's really the holy grail of higher education. And so book ends with a comprehensive roadmap and actions that we can all take. And that's what my book is about. It's a solutions-oriented book on transforming India and its higher education.
We have not read the book, obviously, because I had not even heard about the book. Is that book available for people to read, and how can they get it?
Thanks for asking, Subodh. Actually, I presented my book for Jagat to read to Joe Shrestha, his friend. But the book is available on Amazon.com. It's called Building Golden India. How to Unleash. So that's the main title. The subtitle is How to Unleash India's Vast Potential and Transform its Higher Education System Now. And it's under my name, Shail Kumar.
Right.
And so it's available on Amazon.
So, Shail, we have described the problems that India is facing as far as higher education is concerned. Tell us, what are the solutions that you have in your mind at this time, or which directions that India needs to go? You keep on traveling to India so many times a year and trying to meet a lot of people there in India. So talk about it, where can we start to, really change the entire education system? I'm with you that we need to really change the entire education system in India. How do we do that?
Yeah. Thanks, Jagat. It's all about solution. It's not about complaining. It's not about analyzing. It's really finding solutions.
Listen, when I was growing up, when I was in college, Shailendra, all we were doing is we were just getting ready for an exam. For the last 2 months, you read, you remember it, you pass the exam, and you are so happy. God, boy, this is the best thing has ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, there is also so much of a socio-political involvement in education. When I was getting into medical school in Bombay, GS Medical, to get into Bombay Medical School was almost impossible. And then there were other barriers. One of the biggest barrier was they would ask a question if you went to a municipal school, which were the best schools there. Were you born in Bombay? That was a geopolitical barrier. A brilliant child. Luckily, I was born in Bombay and raised in Bombay, so for me that question was even, I had to say yes. Although I had a fantastic number of marks and I got into the best school out there, that one barrier could have thrown me off. Absolutely. Were you born in Bombay was the question they asked me. I'm like, I am an Indian. I was born in India, period. Exactly. What a political barrier that would have been for me otherwise. But those are the challenges, the nitty-gritties of every little place. While you answer that, I'm going to take another caller and screen this person and get you on air with them. Jagat, please take over.
Go ahead, Shailendra.
Yeah, so Jagat, the question was, what are the solutions? So I think the very first one, the point I made that it's really important that decision makers, politicians, bureaucrats, influencers recognize colleges and universities and the framework that I define. It's not just about preparing students or giving them credentials. It's about preparing them for their lives and careers, very important. And which means it cannot be just rote learning like we were just talking about. It has to be skills that matter to the society and industry. So it's really a much broader view of what has to be done in these colleges and universities, but also how important research, innovation, and startup is as part of the university culture and its actual learning. Because we constantly undersell that.
Can you hold on
one of the most important.
Hey, Shail, can you hold? I'm going to try some electronic switcheroos out here and see if I can get this young lady who has her perspective, and obviously she is in education and she'd like to. For some reason, if I cut you off, please call back again. For some reason, because there's a new board we are working with out here. I'm going to first try and see if I can get both of you all on the same time. Hold on. I think I cut him off. I got her. I had something out here. All right.
Shail, give us a call back.
Well, I don't know if you can hear us, but he'll call us back. Miss Madam, sorry I cut that other gentleman off, but I got you on. How's that? You're a historian. We want
Wonderful.
Yeah. So why don't you...
I can throw my question and
I will ask him. But go ahead and tell us what's your perspective. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Why are you calling Open Forum on education today?
Because I am in education, but I am in different form of education. I am director of a non-profit, and we educate children and adults about the mental health issues in America, especially because 17 million of our youth is going through depression. Elderly people, 56% are feeling very lonely and depressed. Highly educated, living in big houses, successful people.
Right.
So at the age of 60, I'm coming with total different perspective. What is education? What is progress? What is economy? Economy. And what we are doing to earth and human being are we making rats to run a rat race and get somewhere? I was watching TV that Elon Musk was talking about in 2030s, and we were talking, let me tell you that American water level are going down.
Yes.
True, it's not India, it's the world over.
Yeah.
So what we have brought up, on us is global warming and the pollution and our progress. I don't know, wise men said that the more education we get, more dangerous education, because it's not holistic. We are not thinking wisely, we are chasing. And we are becoming rat race, rats and rat race.
Right.
So what is real education?
Okay, hold on. Hold on. And we're going to ask this gentleman. I don't think I'm going to cut you off this time. Hold on. So I'm not sure. No, he cut us off. I like that. No, something must have happened here.
Right.
Okay, that's cool. Let's go. He's going to call back. But I think the gist of your question is you really painted it with a very broad brush out here. You talked about the mental status.
I'm talking about holistic things.
Right.
Not only just mental education or physical education. What happens to, how we can make it holistic and people compassionate instead of, living in a big castle away from everybody, disconnected, and becoming richer and richer and 1 or 2%. And what is the poverty? I remember my father was a doctor, growing up very rich. My father died of cancer, and we were poor. The maximum intelligence and wisdom I got when we were in that stage,
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be depressed to understand the world.
Madam, hold 1 second, okay? If you have a radio, you can listen to us on the radio while I put you on hold. All right? Hold on.
There we go.
Now I think.
Finally.
Okay, Shail? I'm learning. It looks like the education of the board. I need to educate myself a little bit more on this board.
It's a new board, so,
you're back on air.
Yeah.
So Miss Siddiqui, who called, obviously is quite passionate about about what you've been talking about, the education, the water levels in the world, etc.
And
she looks like
ecosystem
she looks like a green lady, if I want to call her a green lady.
Exactly.
And what she talked about was, how do you approach education in a holistic manner?
Right.
People are talking about a rat race in this world. People are talking about being depressed in the world. You may live in big, big homes, but yet in your heart and your mind, you're completely devastated and depressed due to so many things.
Right.
So what I think I get the gist of her questioning is, look, we have progress. We are in the 20th, 21st century now, and we are in such a rat race that how the heck do we put the brakes on this rat race and say, hey, whoa, pull the horses back. Let's start from the basics all over again. I think that's the approach that she's looking for. Do you have any words of wisdom for her?
So I think, not directly, Subodh, but I think I was about to share the action plan for India. And my thoughts are all aimed towards India because that's where the biggest, in my assessment, huge opportunity and challenge that we face.
Right.
Of course, my insights based on writing the book and my 20+ years of working is specifically directed towards India.
Right.
And I agree in some sense, and at one level I absolutely agree. The education cannot be just about learning math, science, geography, take a subject in a field. It's not just about that. It's definitely about as I keep saying, preparing for life and career.
Correct.
Preparing for career might require you to be expert in certain specific fields, but preparing for life requires a lot more well-rounded learning, co-curricular, extracurricular, exposure to things that you actually will need in life but may not be in career. So I, on one level, agree with Ms. Siddiqui, and beyond that, I'm not sure if I can address the answer of getting off the rat race. That's a different conversation altogether. Yeah. But I agree on the much broader education that the students must get in the formative years of their education, if you will. Yeah, so if I may pivot to that, to the earlier question about solutions for India. Right. So there are 5 big ideas that I believe can transform India. They're at a structure, strategy, or policy level. So the first one is really India must establish 100 world-class multidisciplinary research universities. I'll explain a little bit more about that, which is they need to be multidisciplinary. We have, in whatever context in the past, we have established very narrow, siloed institutions like IITs, IIMs, AIMS. They're specifically in one field and that's it. There is tremendous impact on student learning. There's a tremendous impact on research, innovation, startup when you have disciplines of all disciplines in one co-located campus, like Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, and you name the university that we have been talking about. Right. It also makes economic sense because there is tremendous leverage from being co-located. You have the best economics faculty working, have the ability to work with the best business, best computer scientist, best medical doctor, etc. So there's a tremendous synergy that we are missing by creating these siloed institutions that we have. And it's time to revisit that model and say we do need, and the way India can do it is transforming some of these existing institutions, like some of the IITs, like some of the IIMs and AIMS and other institutions, to become multidisciplinary in their scope, and also become a lot more research intensive in their orientation. Right. And as a function of their commitment to making an impact on the society they serve in the nation, they will in fact have to become world class just by that nature. And I think India needs 100 of such universities. And of course, some combination of new universities. And Nalanda 2.0, the non-profit organization that I started here, we just launched an initiative to create one such university, which will become a catalyst enabler and set the benchmark for India. That's one idea, creating world-class multidisciplinary research universities. Right. So the second big idea is
we have about 5 minutes left or 6 minutes left in the segment. So go ahead with the bullet points.
Go ahead and talk about it. But there are a lot of challenges, Shailendra, in India when it comes to education and changing the whole system. But we need to talk about some of the other challenges, financial challenges, how the entire university education has been funded by the government. So, maybe some other time we need to talk about all those, and then compile it, how best we can move forward.
But as you said, if you don't find a solution, don't complain. So I like the solutions. I want them in a bullet point for the next 4 of them, so because of the time.
Okay, so I'll give bullet points without going into details. Right. And if there's interest amongst your audience, I'm happy to come back next, in a
Absolutely.
Whatever works for you.
In fact, when you come to Houston,
follow-up conversation.
Next time you come to Houston, plan in such a way one of the Saturdays you'll be here so we can get you back into the studio.
So, exactly. So let us know at least a couple of weeks in advance.
Let's go to your bullet points, sir.
Okay, the second big idea is really having each state in India something like a California master plan, which includes a combination of community colleges, state universities, and UC system. It's a master stroke that was so successful that every state in the U.S. has adopted some version of it. And India needs that to give access, 100% access to excellent education to all its people. The third idea is, even after 70 years of independence or 70 plus years of independence, we are still stuck. Indian higher education is still stuck with British Raj rules, regulations, mindset. We need to just eliminate that. We are an independent country. It needs to behave like one and also not take what British India used. British used Indian higher education system for a very different purpose. We don't need to adopt the same rules, regulations to manage the system now. That said, fourth is we need to re-establish, what makes a world-class institution world-class is actually the faculty members. We need to attract the best and the brightest talent to become faculty members, which includes giving them market-based compensation and merit-based accountability and incentives to attract the best and the brightest. That's really, really important. And finally, in order to address the scale challenge, there is no way we can build new universities fast enough to address the wave of people that are coming through the pipeline. So we have to leverage massive open online courses, technology and innovation that's happening in both technology and learning to provide excellent education to all. So that's really the 5 big ideas that I have outlined, and I'm happy to discuss any one of them now or later.
Well, we do, like I said, we have about hardly 5 minutes. But, just to get the gist of how do you solve this, there's a lot of money involved. You want 100 such institutions or universities in India, which is a noble thought, but who's going to pay for that?
Actually, there are more than 500 universities.
No, but he's talking about world-class, where now you're going to get professors who are absolutely the top people who obviously demand a big salary.
Correct.
And then you want to give it to someone who may not be paying for that. How do you fund that? I think when we talked about we are behind the curve, a lot of it is related to the enormity of the population of India and the paucity of funding of those institutions.
Which was not the case in 47, though.
Well,
48.
yeah. And again,
funding was a problem, so government started all this.
Right.
Population was, at that time, it was less than half.
Less than half.
1/3.
Right.
So, yes. So now there are
we are
enormous problems that India is facing.
Exactly. What Shail is talking about is living in an utopian situation where everything is hunky-dory and the flowers are nice and yellow and purple and they have to be purple. But the problem is the sun has to shine, the rain has to come, and the soil has to be proper for that flower to really bloom. We do lack that in India. We don't have the money. We have a huge population, but we have people like him who have the solutions.
Right.
That is the silver lining on the cloud that I'm looking at.
Right. That is true.
Out here. So
true.
we really appreciate you. Just something to chew upon, Shail, that when we get you back next time, let's talk about the funding of the ideas that you actually brought forward today.
Correct.
How does that sound to you?
Yeah. No, absolutely, Subodh. And just to make a point on the funding, you're raising a very important point. And actually, what I'm proposing is not utopian at all. In fact, India is spending more money, but it's just being spent in sort of wrong allocation, the wrong allocation of resources. Just to make a point, so we have 23 IITs now. We have 15 plus IIMs, and we are now increasing 5 plus AIMs. We are actually spending more money by creating these siloed institutions, but as opposed to having them co-located. That's just a simple idea. So one of the suggestion is going forward. You can't change what's being done,
right?
But going forward, when you have resources to build more IITs and more IIMs and more AIMs and more lighters, all these siloed institutions, create one institution instead. And in fact, you'll save money by doing that, because as an example, I was at the IIM Calcutta campus just a year or 2 years back, and if you look at the amount of space they have in the land area, and they're in a very it's a very impressive campus, it's a beautiful campus, and like IIM Calcutta, but actually a university could be set up in that land. If you think about the assets of universities and colleges currently India has, they can be really imagined. So I think there is a huge opportunity that we have that we can use. If we use the mindset of finding solutions, we can find solutions with the existing resources.
Shail, hold a second. I have Shail, hold a second. There's a caller that I'm going to take you for half a minute, get his point and bring it forward to you, and then we'll see. We're going to close this segment because we're going to move to the next segment. Hold on 1 second, okay? All right, let's get your point in 30 seconds. I know it's giving you hardly any time, but would you mind saying your point in 30 to 45 seconds, please?
Okay, 15 seconds is good enough.
Fantastic.
My point is, the corruption in India and the primary education, there's a problem. And if you look at every single parent, they earn to pay to send their kids for the primary education. And that primary education is a building block of the students. And when they get into the higher education, they qualify. So the conclusion is, to make it short, that if the government can back off from the higher education and allow the private sector to get in, the funding and all these problems will go down very easily. So that should not be a big problem.
Yeah, Vijay, hang up and listen to us on the radio. I'll get Kumar back again. Thank you.
Sure.
So, Shail, Mr. Vijay, who's a smart guy, and he calls us very often and puts us in the right place many times, talked about the corruption that is in India at every level, even when it's into the schooling system, people corrupt to get into better schools. And in the primary education, people have to stand in a line to get a child. Even when the baby is just born, they're running not to say hello to the baby, but they're running straight to the school. Right. My baby is born. Right. I haven't seen the baby yet, but here's the registration form.
It's 10 lakhs rupees.
So does it boil down to corruption? Does it boil down to money? Does it boil down to other things? Population, for example.
Absolutely.
They're very good points. We have to close the segment, but something for you to chew upon.
Another thing, what Vijay was talking about, Shail, was that let the government get out of the education. I think it's easier said than done at this time, because I don't think that the private enterprises are really going to get into education at this time, unless there is money to be made. Even in education, if the private enterprises come, they're not going to put their money where the mouth is. So go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, Subodh and Jagat, I know time's running out. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. If anybody of your users, audience, listeners are interested, I welcome them to visit my site, Nalanda 2.0. And I will take these questions and hopefully we can continue the conversation. These are very deep questions: funding, corruption, and few others which require more, time to address. So, we can probably do another round, perhaps.
Yes, we will definitely do another round. There is no question about it. But for that, you need to be in Houston. So try to make it a visit to Houston.
Come to Houston, and we'll have what's your favorite restaurant? We'll take you there, and then we'll have a good time.
Absolutely, very true.
Thank you again, sir.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
We can be heard all over the world on humfmradio.com, humfmradio.com. If you do have time, Shail, listen to us for the next hour. We're going to be talking to some fine people out here. First, we're going to talk to folks from Save a Mother. Again, it's boiling down to where is the money for education.
Correct.
This organization educates pregnant women, and they actually educate educators who go and educate these ladies. And the second part of today's program at 5:15 is going to be with Pratham for the next 15-20 minutes. We're going to talk to Pratham. And the third part, we're going to talk to a politician, a potential congressman who's running, and obviously his name is Sri Kulkarni. So thank you so much. We're going to go to our next segment, folks. Thank you for everyone who was holding.